Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25.
Now with those new developments in the unsolved murder of Tupac, who was gunned down nearly 30 years ago in Las Vegas. Police just searched a home nearby. Kana Whitworth is in Las Vegas, has those details for us. Good morning, Kana.
The discovery that authorities just made inside Tupac Shakur's private garage nearly 30 years after his death has left investigators, fans, and the entire hip-hop world in total shock. This isn't just some small find. This changes everything we thought we knew about Pac's final days. Behind the image of the legendary rapper who reshaped hip-hop forever, there was a hidden side, one that nobody, and I mean nobody, had access to until now. What they uncovered wasn't just surprising, it was chilling. It pulled back the curtain on layers of lies, betrayal, and manipulation that run way deeper than anyone ever imagined. The truth about what sat locked inside that garage for almost 3 decades is darker and stranger than the wildest conspiracy theories ever posted online. And trust me, we're about to break down every shocking detail piece by piece. Get ready, because this story is about to take you on one of the wildest rides hip-hop history has ever seen. This isn't just a mystery, it's a cover-up that shakes the foundation of everything fans believed about Tupac's life and death. But before we jump deep into this insane discovery, let's keep it real for a second. For years, everyone's been obsessed with that tragic night in Las Vegas, September 7th, 1996. The MGM Grand fight, the white Cadillac, those gunshots echoing at the intersection, it's the moment burned into hip-hop history. Yet nobody expected that decades later, new evidence hiding in plain sight would flip the entire story upside down. That's the story that dominated every headline, every documentary, every late-night discussion. But here's what almost nobody ever brings up.
And breaking in just the last hour, we are learning that Las Vegas police have searched a home in connection to the murder of Tupac.
While investigators were chasing clues along the bright lights of the Las Vegas Strip, Tupac's personal world, his home, his garage, was completely left in the shadows. No search warrant, no forensic sweep, no deep investigation at all. Can you believe that? And that one move, or better yet, that massive mistake, ended up burying one of the biggest secrets in music history. September 13th, 1996. Mark that date forever. That's the day Pac took his last breath at University Medical Center in Vegas. Only 25 years old, man, while the whole world grieved and his mother, Afeni Shakur, fought to keep his legacy alive, that garage just sat there, untouched, locked tight, holding secrets that refused to come to light for decades. But here's where it gets real wild. When authorities finally cracked open that garage door after nearly 30 years, what they found wasn't just memorabilia or random stuff, it was pure chaos. We're talking about documents and evidence that pointed straight to serious manipulation, deep money games, and a betrayal so cold it could make anyone's blood boil. For decades, the investigation into Tupac's death only focused on the streets, gang beefs, that fight with Orlando Anderson at the MGM, the Southside Crips connection. Detectives got stuck in that one storyline, blind to everything else. Nobody thought to check what Pac left behind in his own space, his private zone where the real truth might have been sitting all along. That narrow vision, that tunnel focus, turned out to be one of the biggest missteps in the entire investigation. So picture this. Back in 2008, chaos hits the music world. A massive fire breaks out at Universal Music Group's storage facility in Los Angeles, and at first, the company goes completely silent. No press releases, no clear answers, just quiet tension boiling under the surface. But when the truth starts leaking out, the entire music industry goes into full-blown panic. Thousands of master recordings, original tapes that can never be replaced, were rumored to be gone forever. It all started when a security guard noticed smoke creeping out of one of the storage buildings. By the time firefighters made it there, the whole place was already engulfed in flames. But this wasn't just any fire. It was devouring priceless history. Original recordings from the biggest names ever signed to Universal's labels were being wiped out right before everyone's eyes. Tupac's estate was especially alarmed. His mother, Afeni Shakur, had spent years fighting to make sure every unreleased track, every studio session, and every lyric was kept safe. The idea that some of Pac's unreleased work might have gone up in smoke, that was heartbreaking, absolutely crushing. She didn't waste a second and reached out to Universal, demanding to know exactly what was lost. But the response she got? Frustratingly vague and full of empty words. No clear list, no transparency, just confusion and silence. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. When investigators started digging deeper into what actually burned that night, they found something strange, real strange. Turns out, the destroyed building only contained around 5% of Universal's entire music collection. Most of the company's priceless recordings were stored safely in other facilities scattered across the globe. So why was that specific building hit? And what exactly was kept inside it? That question lit up more suspicions than the fire itself. So yeah, the fire was bad, but not the total disaster the media made it out to be. The real twist came later, when investigators uncovered something way more suspicious. Turns out, right before the blaze, certain high-value recordings had quietly been moved out of the main Universal vaults, and among those were boxes tied directly to Tupac's estate, moved to a small, low-profile storage site, a converted garage that once belonged to Pac himself. The official explanation? Security reasons. They claimed they wanted to protect the most valuable items by keeping them separate and safe. Sounds smart on paper, right? Wrong, because what was actually happening behind those locked doors was nothing like what they told the public. This so-called secure facility sat in a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood, looked legit from the outside, like a top-tier storage setup with climate control and tight security systems. But once investigators finally got inside, it was a whole different story. Instead of neatly organized archives, it looked like someone had packed everything in a rush and vanished. Dust coated the floor, boxes piled up with no order at all, labels faded and torn. Some of those containers hadn't been touched in decades. It was obvious this wasn't just a short-term storage spot. It had become a hidden vault, a secret stash meant to stay buried forever. And here's where it gets wild. When they started digging through those boxes, investigators stumbled on documents that should have been with Tupac's official estate records. We're talking contracts, legal papers, and financial agreements, stuff his own family had never seen before. That's when it hit them. This wasn't just forgotten history. This was a cover-up hiding in plain sight. Some of the paperwork investigators uncovered went way back to when Pac was still alive, deep in the death row records era. Other documents came from after his passing, when his estate was being built and people were quietly deciding who would really control his legacy. And here's where things started getting seriously disturbing. Inside that garage, they found several locked file cabinets, sealed tight for years. Inside were copies of key estate documents, but when investigators lined them up next to the official records, nothing matched. We're talking different contract terms, altered payment amounts, and even mismatched signatures on certain legal papers. That's not some simple clerical error, that's straight up shady. Security logs revealed that someone had been slipping in and out of that garage for years, sometimes staying for hours at a time. But get this, the visitor logs were a total mess. Half the entries were smudged, incomplete, or missing altogether. Whoever was sneaking in clearly didn't want to leave a clean paper trail of what they were doing in there. Then came one of the biggest shocks. Investigators uncovered dozens of unreleased master recordings, and none of them had ever been part of any official posthumous release. The sound quality? Immaculate, clearly studio grade, meaning these tracks had been fully produced and ready for the world to hear. Many of the lyrics dug deep into Pac's personal struggles, his hopes, fears, and raw reflections about his future. These weren't just songs, they were messages straight from the man himself. But here's the dark twist. Evidence pointed to some of those unreleased recordings being secretly used to create unauthorized music releases over the years. Somebody had been cashing in on Pac's voice without permission, twisting his legacy for profit, while the truth sat buried in that dusty garage. Bootleg albums, shady compilations, and underground releases, yeah, all that money, none of it was reaching Tupac's estate or his family. The profits were filling the pockets of the very people who were supposed to protect his legacy. That's betrayal on another level. Buried inside that garage, investigators uncovered recording contracts proving Pac had been working on several massive projects right before his death. These weren't small-time ideas. These were collaborations with top artists and major record labels, the kind of deals that could have pulled in millions. According to the original contracts, Pac's estate was supposed to own the rights to those projects, but the hidden papers told a totally different story. Somewhere along the way, those rights got secretly transferred to other hands without any proper approval. That's not an accident, that's manipulation with a purpose. Then it got even darker. The financial documents laid out a money trail that was straight up jaw-dropping. For decades, millions from Tupac's music, merch, and licensing deals had been quietly funneled through a twisted web of companies and offshore accounts. The setup was genius in how sneaky it was, each layer designed to hide the real destination of the cash. Investigators even found spreadsheets breaking down every transaction in insane detail. Revenue from a single song could bounce through multiple companies, with each one skimming off fees and commissions before anything ever reached the family. By the time the money made its way to the estate, barely anything was left. Whoever was behind that system knew exactly what they were doing, and they'd been keeping that machine running for years without anyone noticing. If these files are real, and every sign says they might be, then this could be the clearest proof yet of a massive, long-running financial scheme that quietly rerouted money away from the people it was meant for. We're talking about millions, literal millions, that should have gone straight to Tupac's estate, but instead wound up in accounts tied to his former managers and their inner circle. That's not just shady business. It's a betrayal of everything Pac stood for. Now, technically, not every move in these documents might be illegal, but the setup definitely looks like a system built to keep a select few getting rich while his family got crumbs. Family members were handed glossy financial reports that looked clean and even hopeful, but those dusty garage files told another story entirely. Investigators believe there may have been two sets of records, one polished and fake for the family's eyes, and another that secretly tracked the real money trail hiding behind the scenes. But here's where things really start to burn. Some of the biggest posthumous deals under Tupac's name were structured in ways that funneled more cash to middlemen than to his actual estate. These contracts weren't simple business mistakes. They looked like they'd been carefully engineered to keep control and profits in the same few hands, with as little oversight as possible. And just when investigators thought it couldn't get worse, they uncovered the most disturbing piece yet, evidence that legal documents had been tampered with. Experts who reviewed those papers found strange inconsistencies, differences in ink, handwriting, and signatures that hinted someone had altered them after Pac's death. The most shocking? A version of his will that granted certain managers broad control over his assets. If that turns out to be real, it means Pac's entire legacy might have been hijacked from the very start. At first glance, the paperwork looked completely legit, clean, official, flawless on the surface. But when experts started digging deeper, the cracks began to show. Detailed analysis revealed subtle manipulations, the kind you wouldn't spot unless you knew exactly what to look for. The ink didn't match the era the document was supposedly signed, and the paper had manufacturing traits that didn't even exist at the time. This wasn't some sloppy forgery. It was next-level document tampering, done by people with serious skill and deep pockets. Now let's talk about who could have been behind this mess. While Tupac Shakur, Tupac's mother, was out in the world fighting to keep her son's legacy alive, speaking at events and protecting his name, the people she trusted most were quietly working against her. These business managers, these so-called industry professionals who claimed to have the family's best interests at heart, they were playing both sides. They used her dedication to Pac's legacy as a perfect disguise for their shady moves. While Afeni focused on honoring her son's image and keeping his art pure, they were behind the scenes rerouting cash, hiding contracts, and suppressing unreleased tracks that could have brought huge revenue to the estate. And all the while, they made sure it looked like everything was under control. For those who don't know, Afeni founded Amaru Entertainment in 1997 to handle all of Pac's posthumous releases. She poured her heart into that company, working side by side with producers and labels to make sure every album stayed true to his vision. Projects like Are You Still Down and Still I Rise were her way of keeping his message alive. But she was fighting a hidden war against enemies disguised as allies, people she couldn't even see clearly. And here's the wildest part. They didn't just fake paperwork. They used real lawyers, real notaries, and legit filing systems to make their altered documents look authentic. They turned the legal system itself into a weapon, using official channels to disguise their fraud as business as usual. This wasn't some quick scam. It was a long-term, carefully engineered operation built by insiders who knew every loophole in both the music industry and the law. As time went on, the legal battles only got messier and heavier. The Shakur family found themselves trapped in an endless war, fighting on all sides. Against bootleggers pumping out fake albums, against record labels twisting contracts, and sometimes, heartbreakingly, against the very business partners they once trusted. Every small win came with a brutal cost, draining their money, their energy, and their spirit. Each fight made it harder for them to keep control over Tupac's legacy. When the 2008 Universal fire hit, Afeni Shakur's patience finally ran out. She was done waiting on corporate excuses and half answers. With her son's legacy on the line, she brought in her own team of lawyers and private investigators, demanding the truth about what really happened to Tupac's recordings. She was determined to trace every missing tape, every lost document, every piece of his creative soul. That fierce determination, her refusal to back down, eventually led investigators straight to that mysterious converted garage. But what they uncovered there went way beyond simple fire damage. What they found exposed something deeper, darker, and far more sinister than anyone expected. Because at its core, what was hidden in Tupac's garage wasn't just about missing music or stolen cash. It was about betrayal. A deep, systematic betrayal of a man's legacy by the very people who were supposed to protect it. The ones who promised to guard his art had used it instead, to build their own fortunes. Trust had been turned into a weapon, and greed had poisoned something sacred. What began as a simple hunt for lost recordings exploded into one of the biggest deceptions in music history. Tupac's legacy, the one the world believed was genuine and carefully preserved, had been twisted, reshaped, and sold for profit. And here's the real heartbreak. The loss wasn't just in the stolen money or the hidden tracks. It was in how Pac's true voice got buried. Fans all over the world had been hearing a version of his story that was filtered, edited, and manipulated by people chasing their own agendas. The raw truth, Tupac's real words, his unfiltered vision, his plans for the future, was locked away, silenced by the same system he once fought against. So now the question that's got everybody talking, what happens next? Will there finally be legal consequences for the people behind this? Can Tupac's family ever recover what was stolen from them? And most importantly, will Pac's real artistic vision finally get the respect it always deserved? This discovery has flipped everything we thought we knew about his final chapter, shaking the entire foundation of hip-hop history. For nearly 3 decades, fans believed his legacy was protected, that the people in charge were honoring his truth. But the evidence uncovered in that garage tells a whole different story. A story of deception, greed, and betrayal so deep it hits the soul. Those who were trusted to protect his name ended up rewriting his legacy for their own gain. It's painful, it's outrageous, and it changes how we see everything about Tupac's life after death. This revelation should be a wake-up call for every artist's family out there. Always keep your eyes on the paperwork, the contracts, the money trail, because behind the scenes, the business can get ruthless. The music industry has a long, dark history of exploiting talent, and now we know it doesn't stop, even after an artist is gone. That's the part that hurts the most. So what do you think about all this? Do you believe justice will finally come through for Pac and his family? Or will the truth keep getting buried under corporate lies and legal games? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear what you think about this insane situation. And before you go, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video so more people can see what's really been going down behind the scenes. Let's keep Pac's real story alive and make sure his legacy gets the respect it truly deserves.